to do to,
The content of this meeting is being sent to custom live streaming service.
okay, so you're seeing that. Okay,
Yes.
let's see what happens. Okay, it says live, so I'm going to click on my YouTube video to see if we are. I'm going to refresh it. No, it does not show us yet. Okay, so I'm looking at a. Let me move this all the way down here so I'm not looking at that. Okay, so I'm view stream. Okay, this is weird because it's delayed. Okay, let me see if I can unmute. Okay, let me see if I can unmute. Can you?
Oh,
Okay, let me see if I can unmute. Okay, so now is a problem because there's a delay. Okay, so now is a problem because there's a delay. Okay, I had to turn that off. Oh boy. Okay, let me see. It says view on YouTube. I'm viewing on YouTube. Are we live on YouTube? We appear to be live on YouTube.
we are right now?
I think so. Don't make that funny.
Looking at the holiday show. Well, maybe it says, maybe it's not showing because it's not 8 yet. The
Well,
countdown's still on it.
I think if you refresh your screen, you should see it.
Oh.
I think we're.
Maybe it's not showing because it's not 8 yet. The
Well,
countdown's still on it.
I think if you can we all see? Ron, if you could check your YouTube channel. I'm on YouTube, and I see us. Although what's a little screwy is it's delayed. So if I watch us from YouTube, it will throw me off. I can't watch us, but we are live. I think I might cover up my screen so.
We are. There is a delay, but I see it and hear it.
Okay, good. Okay, so we are live on YouTube. Now I have to go over and check Facebook to see if that is set up correctly and if that is live. Let me go.
Did you say we were being joined by Rob Bonfiglio? That's awesome.
Yeah, Rob will join around 8:40, and we have Johnny Sneed, who played Hal Blaine in the Love and Mercy film.
All right.
He'll be joining around 8:30, and he and Willie Aaron, who was another member of the Wrecking Crew in that film, will be joining, and possibly I'm trying to keep up. Hold on here.
Do you know there was a stretch a few years ago? It was probably 2019 when I saw Rob Bonfiglio perform with both Mike's band and Brian's band in the span of about 6 weeks. He was filling in a few shows, I guess, for Brian Eichenberger in Mike's band, and then, was one of the regulars in Brian's band later that fall.
Yeah. Cool. Yep. Okay, let me see. I'm on the Facebook page right here, and I thought I had set that up correctly, but I'm not. Okay, bear with me. I need to go to. I don't want to lose this page, so I'm going to just go over to Facebook, leave that page up, go over to Facebook, go to the page, and see if we are streaming live. Okay, we're not in the group streaming live, so let me just go to the regular ESQ page and see if we're streaming live there. Okay, let me just click on live video. Is it there? Now this one may be a case of, because it's not 8 o'clock yet, why we're not on. But I'm really not sure. So Amanda, can you hear me? Did I lose you guys?
I got you.
Okay.
I still have you.
Is she still there? No, it looks like she's not here.
Looks like muted for a second.
Okay. Oh, this is weird. This is really weird. Oh, this is weird. Okay, I can't do that. I have to just rely on the Zoom. So let me come back to my Zoom. Where is my Zoom? Okay, here we go. So I know that we're live on YouTube. That's been solved. Whether or not we're live on Facebook, I can't quite figure. I don't know if that's going to go over well. And what I was going to ask Amanda to do when she comes back was to if she could go over and point people to come to the YouTube channel because that is working.
Hey,
Hey,
I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm having an issue with Riley.
okay,
But so yes, I just posted on Reddit the YouTube link,
okay, great.
and then on Facebook, post it there too.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if at 8 o'clock, if it will, if the Facebook link will work or not. But again, this is because I just never done this before. I just, this is a uh, sorting. I'm
Yeah,
stressed
trial run.
about this. What better way to stress than holiday cheer?
Yeah, you gotta try it.
That's right. Well, and this is kind of what I don't know that Ron and I initially talked about the live thing, but this I kind of think was in the back of our minds as we started this show was how far can we take this? What else can we do with it? And so I'm hopeful that I don't know. I don't have any idea of what type of numbers to expect. I went through last night manually. I had to manually invite people on Facebook, and that took quite a while because it was one person at a time.
Hmm.
It said you can invite 500 people. So clicking on 500 little buttons was not preferred, but so I hope at very least tonight we will Ron, we will go over the comments left, and particularly the propaganda one. That's the one I really want to dig into.
Yeah. How much would you like my opinion on anything from my perspective versus just playing it straight as a curator?
Well, what I'm open to everything. So like if as you're reading the question and you want to give something leading into it, that's fine. Or if you want to hear from me and then I don't care how we do it. Or even say something beforehand and then follow it up.
Great. It'll probably be a mix.
Okay, yeah. And I actually that's where I'm going to, although I'm having Amanda kind of do chat duty to a degree, I also want her to be a part of this and to be as much as she can, being
I'm
being a mother
sorry.
of a newborn.
Yeah, I'll turn. So Riley might be normally this time would not be an issue, but it looks like I might have to put her to bed.
Okay, well that's
So
okay. Yeah,
I'm really disappointed, but I hope when will you do the next one?
we just have to kind of it'll be in 2025. We have to just kind of look at what the result of what this is and how we can, because that's all we're doing. Ron and I did the first one. We talked for over 2 hours. I broke it down into 3 segments. And then we're looking at this from the live perspective. I have to figure out if it doesn't go on Facebook, what went wrong? What didn't I do quite correctly? And if it's just strictly a YouTube thing, well, then I can just keep it strictly on YouTube. And that will be easier to promote because it's just driving traffic to the channel, which is fine. But it's just an evaluation process. It's just seeing, okay, how many viewers did we get? Now the tricky thing is, I kind of need to look. I don't know if I need to look at the Zoom, but it's my tendency to do so. But I really need to be looking at the restream because that's where I can control the chat.
Yeah.
So,
There's some way I can look at the chat and restream, even if I'm not on camera contributing. What could I do? Like after I put her to
check the stream on your social platforms. I'm getting a little message. So it's saying view on YouTube. That tells me so this is so off. This is odd because I'm now looking at Restream and everything's about 10 seconds behind. So it's very odd for me because if I turn on the sound, I don't know if I can turn off the regular Zoom and then go off this, but I don't want to accidentally do that and have it cut us all off.
Yeah.
So Gosh, I guess what I'll do is I'll position my Zoom so that it's over top the Restream, and then I'll keep the chat sidebar over here. Oh, so easy.
Do you have like 3 monitors?
No, you know, I think but I'm beginning to think that's what I need. Okay, here. So I got the chat. I'm hoping I'm gonna test. Do you see that? Do either of you see that? I just wrote test in the chat. I don't.
I don't see it.
Okay, if you're just on,
Oh, maybe is it on the YouTube?
it's on Restream. It may be. Well, yeah, it maybe look like it posted to YouTube. But again, the Facebook thing is like I have to. Ron, you may have to take it for a couple of minutes. If you're just on.
I do see it I'm looking at the live,
Uh-huh.
which there's 4 people watching. Hello.
Well, hi, folks. We're still figuring out what we're doing. This is the
Yeah,
first
I'm
time
seeing-
I mentioned that. Well, it may be 3 of us. Well, no, I don't know. But hello to everybody. Just bear with us for a few minutes. We're still trying to figure out. We know that we're live on YouTube. We're trying to see if we're going to be live on Facebook as well, and we're just trying to fine tune that right now. And if we're not, we won't worry about it. But I'm just going over there really quickly to see if there's something I can do to make us to see if we can be live on Facebook as well. And if you're watching this on Facebook, please tell us it's live. Then I will rest easy. Let me see it go live.
I'm gonna check over there too.
So yeah, it's either on the Endless Summer Quarterly page or it's in the Endless Summer Quarterly group. Okay. All right, for those who are watching, we do have a couple surprise guests coming up in a little bit. And again, please bear with us if you're just tuning in. We're just trying to see if the Facebook link is going to be working or not. Because we have never done this before. Okay. Okay.
And I'm not seeing it live on Facebook, so I'll post, like it still says the live video should start soon. You'll be able to watch the live video when the event post goes live.
Well, I am live.
Yeah.
Come on already.
I'll
Okay,
post the YouTube link in there.
Yeah, please do. I posted earlier on my timeline that I wasn't sure if it was going to work correctly, so I am using Facebook as Endless Summer Quarterly right now because I can't do anything. I can't control it. I can't control that page without being ESQ editor. So let me just see here. I want to go to events. And folks, I promise we're going to get underway here in just a minute. We just want to make sure that, okay, here's the event. Live video. Streaming software, advanced settings.
And we have a few comments in the chat already.
They say, get it on already, right? What are they saying?
Very nice.
Oh, good, good.
Metal Flake Paint. Good day, all. Good day, Marcus. Tony Ellis says it's live.
On Facebook or YouTube? Are these comments on YouTube?
They're on YouTube.
Okay, well, great. I'm so glad that some YouTube audience is joining us. Let me do something real quick that might do the trick for Facebook. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go to right here. I'm going to edit. Okay, it does say streaming. Let me see if this works. Paste, save. Let's see if this does the trick. Sending data. Okay, hold on. We might be So I am looking at the Restream, just for anybody who might be watching. We have an application that we're using, software called Restream. And I'm looking at the back of that, and it says we are streaming publicly on YouTube. And the Facebook is now getting data. It says sending data. So let's hope that that comes through, and then we can stop talking about it and get to Beach Boys. So bear with us for just another minute or so. And if it doesn't work, we're going to move on. Okay. Maybe somebody can hum Christmas tunes while I do this? Or play Beach Boys Christmas music in the background?
Well, I've
Maybe.
had in my head the Merry Christmas Baby song.
That's a great song. Okay, let me see. Is this working? Come on. It's Instagram. Come on. All right. I'm at least I'm glad that the YouTube is working. That's progress. It still
And
says sending data. So what we're going to do, I have that screen up to my side, and hopefully it will go through. But I think we just kind of need to. It's 8:05 just about, so I think we kind of need to jump in here. So I'm gonna kind of keep my eye, just for those who are watching, I'm gonna keep my eye over here to see if it will work out with Facebook. I hope it does. But for those of you joining us, 3 or 4, however many you are, we're glad you're here. And we're going to be doing this kind of more. I would say the first word that comes to mind is periodically, but I think it'll be a little bit more than that. And you'll get to know Ron and Amanda a little bit better as 2025 progresses. They're both new to the ESQ staff. If you're a subscriber of the magazine, then I know that you've seen their names, both online for some online articles and in the pages of ESQ for articles that they've written. So I would like to just start by how glad, express to everybody who's watching, how glad I am to have both Ron and Amanda as a part of the ESQ staff, because they've for me personally have breathed new life into what I do, and I need some young folk. And although he's not here with us today, I'll also mention Lane Lannon, who is a young man who just graduated from, I'll get the college wrong, but he's even younger than the three of us. So he's in his 20s. Glad to have you here. And so happy holidays. And I wanted to start with, this is very loose structured. We're going to, if you're just joining, we're going to have some special guests in about half an hour or so, maybe a little under that. And they're going to hopefully come on and spread some holiday cheer. That's the caveat. That's how I sent out the invitation. They had to bring some holiday cheer. And but first, we wanted to start with, Ron and I began kind of a video component of what used to be my podcast, and I will possibly bring that back, but it's also called Good Vibrations, a Beach Boys program. And Ron and I, over 3 episodes, talked about the summer ESQ, the Genesis publications, the book, The Beach Boys by the Beach Boys, the Disney Plus documentary, and the fall edition of ESQ. And today we're going to talk about the winter edition and some of the comments left from the first 3 episodes that the viewers saw. So I'd like to start with the comments left by the viewers, because I thought some of them were interesting. Ron, if you could.
Yeah, they sure were. And I think this is an extension of what ESQ is, right? You open it up, there's letters, but it's not just letters. There's often thoughtful responses. And this is a way to make that even more living and breathing. So one of the comments, there were some comments during one of the episodes about enjoying hearing the Beach Boys, kind of fan origin stories, which we all shared, which was great. There was a comment. I'm kind of going a little bit in order from the 3-part episodes, but there was a comment about the impact of John Stamos when he tours with the groups, and being a range of opinions that get generated off of that, which we were talking about. So I don't, I think, and then there was some particular, things about, Love never credited Brian. I'm looking down my notes to make sure. Love never quoted Brian like the guy in the striped shirt, which he's wearing again, was talking about. Love has always wanted equal credit. So you've got the striped shirt on. What say you? That was one of the comments that you had quickly replied to and said, stay tuned, we'll have more.
Oh, and isn't that didn't?
And then if you look, yes, he had
also
more.
left another question. Yeah, he also left another comment. Let's skip both of these comments together.
The Joker in the striped shirt must be getting paid by Love, nothing but propaganda and lies. Well, I would say, before you go, I will just say,
please, you start.
Hard to assume that someone getting paid by Love is doing part one of Brian Wilson Productions, as is published in your winter edition, with more to come. But we'll save that for later. You are on the stand, sir.
Well, okay. So I think propaganda is an interesting word. I would say, on one hand, that's exactly what we're doing. We are, the whole point of what we're doing is we're talking about, ESQ is a kind of a living printed celebration of the Beach Boys and everything that goes into their world and how they came about. And depending on the issue, it could be out of any era. And the brand new one that you just held up goes all the way back to the very, very beginning of 62, 63 timeline, where Brian wasn't just producing and working with the Beach Boys. He was doing all these outside peripheral things with the likes of Gary Usher and his good friend, his apartment buddy, Bob Norberg, and meeting these people and how he was trying to work with them and incorporate them into productions and recordings. And that's what was so interesting about that era, because, and this is propaganda. I'm telling people about how cool it was to explore Brian Wilson's early productions and get into the fact that he didn't really know or understand where his career projectile was going. He did not understand that, I'm going to be this incredibly prolific producer in a year or so, and everybody's going to be like singing my praises and all that. He didn't even know if he was going to be a songwriter for the rest of his life or have any concept of that. He was trying to figure out in this winter issue whether or not he was going to end up being a producer or a songwriter or an arranger. He just did not know, because the road was not well traveled at that point in his career. He just did not know what lied ahead. And he was, just like any young musician, I imagine, just trying to sort out, what am I really good at and how can I develop the skills that I know that I'm good at, but also, what do I enjoy about what I'm doing the most that I can really sink my teeth into? And as we realized in the winter edition, the one thing that I thought was really cool, and we'll find out more about in the spring 2025 edition, which is part 2, is how much Brian loved rhythm and blues and how he tried to incorporate rhythm and blues into what he was doing, all the work that he was doing. So that I thought was interesting. So I'm not paid by Mike Love. So let me just get that out of the way. I'm not paid by any of the Beach Boys. Now, I will point with great satisfaction that right behind me there are awards that I've won for designing this book, which is something I did do for Mike and his wife Jacqueline Love for the 2016 VIP experience. That's a hardcover coffee table book, which I put together with none other than Dean Torrance from Jan and Dean. So yes, I have worked for the Loves, and it was a privilege and an honor. But no, I'm not here to talk. I'm not here to ever purposely lie, ever. If we do say something that doesn't sound right to the viewer, where they think, well, God, David is, and also my name's David Beard, if you don't know that, so that I'm a little bit more than the Joker in the striped shirt, but I will remain the Joker in the striped shirt if that's easier to remember. But there's no, I've been doing the magazine Endless Summer Quarterly for over 30 years. And I think the reason that I've been able to maintain good working relationships with all the Beach Boys, and I say Brian Wilson, Mike Love, Al Jardine, Bruce Johnston, David Marks, and Dean Torrance of Jan and Dean. And I'm listing the surviving members. You know, I got to know Carl very, very little. I had the privilege of meeting him, and he was just incredible. Um, so, you know, what I do, and anyone who subscribes to the magazine, so that's if you're just watching us on YouTube and you don't actually get the magazine in the mail, then I guess I would go so far as to say you have a one-dimensional uh, really appreciation of what we're doing here. Because to have the magazine is to really have you know, to understand what I do and how I put things together. This video, us being live and talking about these things, is kind of the second component, if you will, to the magazine. The magazine is kind of the foundational element of everything that I do and everything that I talk about or write about in any case. So I don't put anybody before the other guy. I will not dispute that Brian Wilson, if not for Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys just simply would never have been the Beach Boys the way that we know them today. There's no getting around that. I give Brian all the credit he is due, and that's kind of why we're celebrating Brian right now in the pages of ESQ, doing what is going to be a full year of Brian Wilson on the cover, and Brian and his production work through various years. And I can't wait for the readers to get, if they don't have the winter edition, I can't wait for them to get it, and I can't wait for them to get what's coming in 2025, because it's just even fascinating to me. Because I'll just do a quick ESQ plug. If you're not familiar with the magazine, go to esquarterly.com. I think it's listed in the YouTube channel below as a link to our website. Go there and just kind of look around and go to the magazine subscription button and watch the promotional video with the guys who are telling everybody worldwide to subscribe to the magazine. All of them, Brian, Al, Mike, and Bruce, are there to say subscribe. So that, I hope, speaks to that. But we are ESQ is definitely a propaganda in that it celebrates the Beach Boys, it celebrates their music, and it celebrates really anybody who brings joy. Now, we're going to get on to something else here in a minute, because I think a lot of people get this impression of me that because I talk about joy and I talk about love and I talk about all kind of, I guess, flowery things, positive things, they don't think I have a critical brain cell working upstairs, so that they just think, oh, this guy's just all fluff and he doesn't know anything, whatever it is. The Joker in the striped shirt, which may be my new handle. I kind of like it. But, you know, so that I'm going a little off track, but just, you know, that is what you're going to see in these shows, whether they're live or not. You're going to see a celebration, and we're going to get into talking about stuff and what we like about it. We're not really going to get into what we don't like about something, although those conversations might come up, and we may speak to the things that we feel are missing, or where mistakes may have been made, and things like that, because we do address those things. So I hope I spoke enough to that gentleman's comments.
I think so, and if not, and you're out there, feel free to drop us a line, and the next time we do this, you'll get your rebuttal, and we'll go at it again. You know, I think I would say to that, David, there's part of the thing is we want to ultimately help, whether it's the magazine, this, whatever next, we want to help people savor their experience and enrich their experience and their learning, and also be entertained. This is ultimately an entertainment field. That is, you know, this is music. It is ultimately in that category of entertainment. We hope to complement that. And I think, you know, that's a good transition to the next comment.
Oh, and let me just point out that this is a Robert Graham Mike Love striped shirt, so that would only reiterate the person's thing that I'm a Mike Love supporter. But let me just show you that's Mike Love right there on the cuff. I'm digging myself a grave without a shovel. It's kind of.
Where did you get that shirt?
Oh, thank you. See, do you see the Mike cuff right there? That's Mike. That's Love right there from '64.
Oh, I love the detail.
Oh, that's crazy. I think his autograph is somewhere in it, if I'm remembering correctly, but it's been a while. But okay, Ron, sorry.
Sure. Well, there was another comment. Just to be clear about something, when you see Mike and Bruce or the Brian Wilson band, you're not seeing the Beach Boys. You weren't even really seeing the Beach Boys during the, and I'm paraphrasing here. You weren't even really seeing the Beach Boys during the reunion tour in 2012 because there was no Carl or Dennis. And you wanted to make that clear, and you responded to that, kind of briefly online. And I know it's something you wanted to elaborate on, and I've got a thought about that too after you go.
Well, I
I'll just say I'll give it to you now. I mean, my thought is first of all, I personally my worldview. I respect a lot of various opinions, and I value disagreement while being respectful. And to disagree doesn't mean that you're dishonoring or disrespecting. So getting that out of the way, I think about that. I can see where the person is coming from. I also would say, I'll make a non-Beach Boys example quickly. I'm a fan of Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. Am I not seeing the E Street Band because Clarence Clemens has died when I go to a show now? Am I? And now, again, not a perfect analogy, but it's where would you draw the line in terms of are you seeing the band or not? I personally like it all, and in some ways, I think the fact that there have been different varieties has had a multiplier effect because you've been able to see different things, and it's allowed you, for anyone who's ever wished, this is my personal view, for anyone who's ever gone to see a show and say, oh, I heard this, but I wish they did this aspect more, especially someone with a catalog as extensive as the Beach Boys. Well, the reality is when Mike, Al, and Brian were touring as either two or three different entities, if you wanted different flavors and different chapters, you could go get it maybe in the same month, maybe in the same state in the same month. I viewed that my life as that's a positive experience. That's the way I chose to look at it without saying, oh, that's not, it's like the philosophy of abundance. Things can be different and distinct without being absent of something. That's my personal view. So while I respect the opinion, to me, I try not to focus on, well, am I really seeing a band? Because if you went down that, you're not really seeing, okay, where do you draw the line? How are you academically writing that definition? And you find me an act in history that doesn't become a pretty slippery slope of did you actually see the group? That's my soapbox. I'll step off it and listen to
well,
David.
I'm actually since we've got Amanda here, I'm very curious if she'd like to kind of what her opinion is because I'm sure she sees other than just the Beach Boys in concert. So I'm curious, what her feeling is when she goes, knowing that she's not seeing Dennis Wilson, Carl Wilson, or any other group that doesn't have its original core members.
I'm just very grateful to have the experience. Like I saw Mike and Bruce, and I think what was it, the Endless Summer Tour this year, and they were phenomenal. And just like Ron said, I mean, if you're going to say, well, you're not seeing the real Beach Boys, then you can't. No one has seen them since Carl passed away. Um, I mean, it's how you look at it, I guess. I choose to look at it from a lens of gratitude that I'm able to see any of them, and I would love to see Al. I know
Mhm.
Al's band was phenomenal, and they played songs from Surf's Up, right? Which
Yeah.
you don't see that very often. And one thing I really loved about the Endless Summer Tour, John Bolton really stood out to me, and he sang Wild Honey and Darlin', and it was amazing, and you would have thought it was Carl. It was really
He does have a very good tenor voice. He did when I first saw him for the first time. He did California Dreamin', and my reaction to that is when I went backstage because I'm a tenor in my church choir. I'm a first tenor. I went right back to him and said, you really not so much that he sounded like Denny from Mamas and Papas, but it was just like the essence of that energy that the original recording
yes.
produced. Just to be able to capture the feeling. Now, Ron and I talked about this in one of our episodes is the going to the live shows. And this is difficult for me to talk about because I don't like saying anything that could be misconstrued as being against Brian. I saw Brian, I would say probably from 2018 on. I saw him in 2018. I saw him. I think 2018 was the last time I saw Brian in concert. And that concert was difficult for me. And I'm not going to go into as to why. But Brian, what I was seeing in 2015 for Brian's shows is I saw this whole wave of people who I guess had seen the Love and Mercy movie and became aware of this, you know, it's always interesting to me how people become aware of something or the music and how they get attached and connected to a group. But it seemed to me that more people were coming to see Brian in concert because of the press and publicity generated around that film. And it was a really good biopic that if you haven't seen it, go see it or get it on a streaming platform or whatever. It's Paul Dano as a young Brian and then John Cusack as an older Brian. And it's very good. It's done very well. And it was a show, and by 2015, I thought that Brian had given enough, that he didn't need the tour anymore, because I was seeing, I guess the only way I know how to say this, and I'm not saying it cruel, I'm just, my observation was Brian at that time in 2015 could have stopped touring. Because the guy that I saw in 1999 doing Pet Sounds for the first time in its entirety just looked like, I'm not saying he didn't enjoy it. I'm not saying he didn't want to be on the road. What I'm saying is what I saw in concert, what I saw him projecting for the audience was not entertainment dollar. You know, and I don't want to just compare it to what Mike does. I just mean, generally speaking, when you pay for a ticket to go to a show of any kind, you're whatever it is, whether it's a Broadway show or a concert event, you're expecting to be entertained. Now, what I witnessed in 2015 was what seemed like young people. I remember this one young girl kind of bounding in. She was late to the show, and she was bounding in with her boyfriend. Oh, we're here. And she was excited. She was elated. And I was excited and elated for her. As the show went on, though, and again, Brian's got such an incredible group, but I was really kind of thinking, boy, I hope this young lady who was bounding in because she was so excited, doesn't leave disappointed. And I'll just say this from a professional standpoint, is that Brian stopped participating on the level that he had back in the late 90s going into really through That Lucky Old Son. He participated more in his shows. And by the time, after the reunion tour, the Beach Boys reunion tour in 2012, after that, his level of, you didn't know how much he was going to sing in a show, and the band had to kind of be on their toes in the event that he just decided not to sing. And everyone who's been to a show knows this. I'm not telling anything, I'm not throwing Brian under the bus or anything like that. I love the guy. But I'm just saying from the perspective of what he was interested in doing. Again, I'm not suggesting he wasn't enjoying himself. I'm sure he liked getting the adulation for, being on stage and getting the adulation. But I'm going to say this, I've said it 1,000 times, I'm going to say it again. We're talking about Love and Mercy, which is great because we have some special guests coming here in a minute. And that is that going to a Brian Wilson concert, to me, it reached a point where I thought they should only book Brian shows at where they had a pulpit, like an orchestra pit, where Brian could sit in the front of the pit and then fans could sit around him. And together, collectively, look at what he created and have it performed by the great band that he had. So he could be a part of the art exhibit with the rest of us. And because I think Brian's shows are art exhibits. And Mike's shows are a good time, happy place thing. And that's what's so beautiful. And Al shows, because Al mixed up the set list so interestingly, is a little bit of both. You know, it's the hey, I'm going to take some of Brian's really cool artsy stuff, and I'm like Surfs Up, and I'm going to put that in here, and then I'm going to do Help Me Rhonda, which is the pure pop element of it. And so, you know, Al does a really interesting job of combining both elements because I think I'm thinking back to 2021 when I was traveling and I went through Ohio and I saw Mike do the Feel Flows tour, and I loved that show because they did All I Want to Do from Sunflower. They did Feel Flows from Surfs Up. It was pretty neat. Oh, and was it This Whole World? Or maybe Slip On Through. It was one of the upbeat songs, and I just thought, okay, this is really really cool. This is really cool that they're doing this. But we're not taking sides. So anybody watching, we're not taking sides. What we're saying is, if not for the founding members, we simply wouldn't have any of it. And I would recommend to anybody who hasn't gone to see Mike in a long time that they really just ought to go see Mike and see his show. Even if Stamos is there, you know, in spite of Stamos, go anyway. just go in spite of that because it is a little cheesy. I have to admit, it's cheesy. It is.
I love cheese.
Yeah, I've got. It's funny. I've got older relatives, my aunt and my dad, who are on opposite sides of that topic with about the same amount of equal passion. One pro, one con. So that's why, like, I think one of my first reviews that I wrote of a show was like, I know people who can take it or leave it, and that's why I do. But there was no, I think I wrote something like, there's no doubt of the exuberance and the enthusiasm brought to it. And that was my take on it. Not saying it's the universally right take, but that was my take in the moment.
Yeah. So I really like, Ron, what you said and what Amanda said, because you said it differently. Well, we've all three said it differently, but the bottom line is having the opportunity to go and enjoy, an opportunity to go. Oh, we have somebody here whose first concert was with the Beach Boys in 1967.
Wow.
Wow, is that cool? Man, can you imagine? So I wonder. So, okay, time to watch. You're going to have to tell us some really interesting songs that they worked into their set list in '67 and where it was, because I'm very curious.
And while that's happening, I just really quick want to say, because David, this is a point you made in one of our previous episodes, and I think it's worth. I'll say it. I can't say it enough. The members who tour with each of the principals just absolutely, I think, they have my highest respect and appreciation for the work they put on and the job they do and the commitment to it and having fun. And it is a grind to do. And I think it is done exceptionally well, and the respect they have for each other and the music, I just think is something that cannot be celebrated enough from my personal perspective.
So we have a special guest just about to hop in here. So I want everybody, as he joins, we have Becoming the Beach Boys book author Jim Murphy joining us tonight, and he's hopping in here, and there he is.
Hey. Hi, folks. Hi, Ron. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Jim.
David.
Hi, Jim.
Good. How's everybody?
Good. Oh my gosh, we're just beginning to get Jim on our feed here. I'm seeing that people are telling us about the first time here's somebody who saw the Beach Boys with Captain and Tennille when they were in the band in the Bowling Green, Kentucky. So that would have been the early 1970s. That would have been very interesting to see them in the group together before they went off to become Captain and Tennille. So Jim, so you've been watching, I guess, I take it. So we're talking about we're currently talking about the live, going to see the live bands because Al is still touring, and I don't have an update on whether or not the Rolling Stone story that ran earlier this year that Al was going to try to get Brian's band to tour with him next year. I don't have an update on that. But hopefully that will come to fruition. I know that Rob Bonfiglio is touring with the Love and Spoonful right now. Um, so who knows? Who knows? But it would be very cool to see Al kind of take the show on the road, so to speak, with Brian's group because they're pretty amazing musicians. And I can't say that without also saying so are Mike's group. I think it goes without saying, but I just always have to kind of just I just have to say it because I just think it's important to say because they're I've just read I've been on the Endless Harmony forum and I've just seen comments where I think it was when John Bolton first joined. Some of the comments I saw about John and his drumming, or I don't know if they didn't like his drumming or his style, because it's funny, you know, I'll talk to him after a show and I'll say to him, "You're not really hitting yourself in the head, are you?" Because he does that thing where he puts the stick up and I'm like, dude, you know, when I'm watching that. So I've asked him backstage and said, you're not really hitting yourself. And he goes, oh yeah, I kind of am. But it's just part of what he does, and you know, that's if it works for him, then I you know. But I will just say just briefly about Bolton and Wiedemeyer is just that I like Mike I like seeing Mike have fun as opposed to just strictly going through the motions. Because it's very easy for him. So they started this silly thing. Okay, time to watch. First concert was in '67, was in Houston, Texas. Okay, here's somebody who's saying John Cowsill is missed. Yes, he is. But John Bolton is mostly worthy replacement. He brings it every night. Yes, yeah. It's a good energy. He's just a good energy, and he's got a great tenor voice.
Yeah, when he sang that Darlin' and Wild Honey, I was like, I'm a huge Carl fan, and he sang it with the same passion that Carl has, like
Mhm.
that had, and it was just an experience.
So since we have the honor of having Jim join us, Jim, if we could.
Not so sure it's an honor, but but thank you for the kind.
The honor is all yours, is what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Okay. But so let me. I don't have it. I should. Okay, just Jim. If for anybody who may be watching who's not familiar with Becoming the Beach Boys, Jim, if you would briefly just tell. Oh, you've got the book. Perfect.
I should have a book, right?
Yes, you should. And then for anybody who doesn't know it, right. Not long after that, this little nugget came out, which is a 2 CD set.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got all the early sessions of the guys as they were kind of finding their way. So it's, Surfin', Luau, Lavender, Surfin' Safari. And this just is a great companion piece to Jim's book. And this was released on Omnivore Recordings, and I'm sure it's still available and pretty easy to get. It was came out in 2016.
Yeah, the story with that was my book came out in June of 2015 and had the title Becoming the Beach Boys, which was actually my wife Bernadette came up with that title. I was struggling with titles. And she said, well, what's the book about? And, it was basically about how they became the Beach Boys, how from their high school years through El Camino Community College and, how they formed a band and how they became the Beach Boys. So she suggested, call it Becoming the Beach Boys. And that's the title that I submitted to the publisher. And then the publisher wanted to kind of date it a little bit. They wanted to give the reader a little bit of an idea of what time frame we were talking about. So they added the 1961 to 1963, which I was fine with. A lot of times I'll drop that when I'm talking about the title of the book. But anyway, the next year or later that year, Brad Rosenberger with Omnivore Recordings, big Beach Boy fan, very knowledgeable guy, really a great guy, funny guy. He got the idea and sort of the inspiration to say well, maybe we can finally release all of the Height and Dorinda Morgan sessions, every single second that's on tape. Because back in the early 90s, there was a really good compilation, Lost and Found on DCC compact discs that Steve Hoffman did. And it was kind of like it wasn't every single cut, every single take. It was kind of like the greatest hits, or the nicest versions, the most interesting cuts, things like that. Most notably known for Lavender, because back in the early 90s, no one knew about this song Lavender, which was just beautiful. It was written by Dorinda Morgan about her favorite color, her favorite scent. And Brian just this just gorgeous vocal on that. Jardine is playing upright bass on that, which he's very proud of. Um, and that was revelatory at that time. It was an unreleased Beach Boys song from 1961. It was unheard of. So DCC Compact Discs did a really, really nice job at that project. But then Brad wanted to take it a step further and just release everything, every single take. And there were some really cool cuts on Surfer Girl too that had not been released prior from the February 9th session in World Pacific. So anyway, he asked me if, can I use the title of the book? Can I borrow the title, so to speak, to Becoming the Beach Boys? So I said, yeah, of course, absolutely. But so that created a nice tie-in between the book and the CD package. And I've actually heard from fans that, will be reading the book or consulting the book and listening to the CD at the same time, or stop where they're reading the book and then, listen to the tracks that I'm talking about. So anyway, it was a nice little joint venture, and really, really happy that the book sort of inspired Omnivore and Brad in particular, being a Beach Boy fan, Brian Wilson fan, to go after these recordings while they could still be legally obtained and released. So,
Oh, it's very cool.
yeah.
Jim, I'm pretty sure that you know this, but I'm
Hmm.
a big book and record fan. So the fact that you were able to do that is great. But we have another guest joining us, and I don't want to keep him holding. It's Johnny Sneed, who played Hal Blaine in the Love and Mercy film.
Hmm.
If we can, he is. We were talking about Love and Mercy just a little while ago.
Hmm.
Hi. Hey, let's see. Wait.
There
Okay.
he is,
Ah,
Johnny
there you are.
Sneed. How are you?
Hey, Johnny.
I'm good. How's it going?
Great. So, Johnny, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot,
Sure.
back, I was hoping you would just tell people, anybody who might be watching who's not a subscriber of the magazine, just tell them about the way that you and the other musicians who were in the Love and Mercy film together have kind of kept in touch with one another over the years, and recently even got together and just jammed together.
Yeah, right. It was it's almost the 10-year, or it was somewhere around, but I just on Facebook and just emails and texts every now and then I keep up with, see what everybody's doing. And I've gone to a couple shows that some of those guys played on, and different bands and different things. And but I reached out to, I think one time there was a little group thread. There were some pictures being passed back and forth on the Facebook, and I said, "Man, what's everybody doing? Let's get together." Just I don't know. We just started talking about it, and so I reached out to the studio where we filmed those scenes. The oh gosh, what's it called now? East West? Is it still? I can't remember what it's called now. Sunset. Anyway, the same studio that we recorded the movie, and where the Beach Boys recorded the Pet Sounds. Little small Studio 3, and they were great. They set us up, and so we got together and played some songs. Yeah, just kind of jammed, and some of those guys played some Beach Boys songs, and then we just started doing some other songs too. I don't know. It was great. Yeah, Darian was there, and some of the other guys that were in the movie. Darian, I guess, was not in the movie, but he was involved with like getting all the musicians together and working the songs together with me before we shot. Yeah, but it was great. It was great to see everybody, and we sent a little video message to the director.
Bill Pullman.
Yes, Bill, and just saying hello and thanks for everything, and it was great. Yeah, Bill loved it, and we had a great time.
Is there any if when you're thinking back to the making of that film, because I've seen you I see you everywhere. And when you showed up in Love and Mercy, I went, "Hey, I know that guy," because I watched you on Parks and Rec.
Oh yeah, Parks and Rec. Oh, that was so
Yeah,
fun.
I'd seen you on that. So when I saw you, and I thought, oh, he's he's Hal Blaine now. And then
Yeah.
it turns out you actually do play the drums.
I do. I actually do. But I was nervous because I was nervous as a drummer, not as an actor, when we were in those scenes, because it was with all those guys that played. Some of them played with Brian or were at the time and part of the band, you know. So I was like, oh man, oh, is this okay? Is this all right? Yeah, but so when I auditioned for that, they wanted an actor who could play drums, because I was the only actor cast. I guess Darian put together the other members in those scenes. Darian kind of got everyone together, and Darian didn't know me, but I got the part, and then I met with Darian like a week or two, maybe more, before we started shooting, and they had the parts in the movie that we were going to be, you know, doing, and we rehearsed those, because that was what was so fun. I know I've been reading about this new Bob Dylan, the movie that they're doing it live, but that's what we did in the studio too. All the stuff that were the Wrecking Crew is learning the songs. That's us playing that day, and they recorded and used that sound. So that was really exciting to be playing it as a musician, playing it, and then having that be what they used on
Yeah. Oh gosh, that is very cool.
yeah.
So from the standpoint of, obviously before you were in that film, you knew about Beach Boys and Beach Boys music and everything, but
Sure.
when you got into that role, what did you come away with that you were like, oh, I had no idea?
I mean, I had a new appreciation. You know, I had heard when I was growing up, I went on a road trip and I heard Beach Boys' greatest hits. This guy had on like cassette, and it would flip over. So for like hours, that's all I heard. And I was just like, I'm never listening to Beach Boys again after that. I was traumatized. But then I loosened that rule, and I was able to. But when I got the part, I really got into Pet Sounds, and then the box set had like the sort of the studio stuff. So that was really fun for me. I had not heard that stuff before, like all the outtakes and the studio versions and the instrumental versions. It was really cool to hear all the little parts. And I did get to meet Hal Blaine beforehand. I go regularly to the Pro Drum Shop here in Hollywood on Vine, just because as a drummer I've gone in there a bunch. It's a great store if you're ever in LA and want to see a drum store. They're like, it's like a working drummer's drum store. Like they have spare parts, you know, they can fix something for you real quick. They don't charge you, you know, it's just the greatest place. And so I went in there and I said, hey man, I got cast as Hal Blaine in Love and Mercy. And they said, oh, you got to call Hal. And they gave me Hal's number. So that's how I got in touch with Hal, is actually through the drum shop. And I called them and called Hal, and he was gracious enough to talk to me for, I don't know, a good hour. And he told me some things, and I emailed him some questions, and he was great to talk to. So one of the scenes didn't make it in the movie, where Hal had told me that Brian would come over sometimes, and Hal's housekeeper would make cookies, and they would eat cookies. And so there was a scene that didn't make it, but I was so excited because I said, Brian, I used that from Hal's thing. I said, Brian, come in, have some cookies, come have some cookies with me or something. Cause he was coming it was a scene where Brian was kind of disheveled, and he was coming to Hal's house, and I was saying, come in, let's have some cookies or something. I was excited to use that because I was like, I knew this from Hal. And anyway, it didn't make it, but
yeah, that sounds like the scene that Mark Lynette was telling me about, because he was Chuck Britz, and they wanted to talk that he wanted to keep the little scene in where he said, can we bring the horses in? And
right.
He wanted that little clip, but they took it out, and he was,
oh man,
such a little thing but he was hoping they would leave it in the film, but they didn't.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Man,
Brian was incredibly ambitious.
Yeah.
Oh
man,
ambitious.
So great. Yeah, I love hearing and they use that in the movie, like the violins for is it Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder? I think that's the song I'm thinking of. And they just use the violin track, or just the instrumental, but you really hear the violins. It was just beautiful, just really beautiful stuff, man. Really nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that box set that you were referring to really kind of brought Pet Sounds to life for me too, because
Yeah.
you could tell by just listening to the album, but that a particular recording was a beautiful recording. But when you got to hear just like those string instruments on "Don't Talk,"
Yeah.
or just the voices,
Right.
You listen to the other CD and you just heard the voices. It's just like a whole different experience. It's just a whole different world.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun to hear all them putting the piece together, and the Wrecking Crew guys learning it, as they went. And before I'd gotten the part, I'd already seen the documentary about the Wrecking Crew. So I was already, and of course, as a drummer, I knew who Hal Blaine was, but it was cool to have kind of close together. The Wrecking Crew stuff had been out in the world, and I'd been kind of delving into that. And then for Love and Mercy to come up, then to have that was really super cool. Yeah.
Well, another fellow has just joined us who's kind of
Yes.
a Wrecking Crew member all by himself, Rob Bonfiglio.
Wow.
Hello.
Somebody who can do it all. Rob, how are you?
How's it going, guys?
Good, good.
Whoa.
So, Rob, right above you, I don't know if he's above you on the screen, but Jim Murphy, who is the author of Becoming the Beach Boys.
Nice.
I don't know if you've got that book. And then, of course,
yeah.
you know Johnny.
Nope.
You don't?
No, I don't think we
Really? You guys have never met him?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how strange. Well, and you both travel in the same circles. So, Rob, this is Johnny Sneed, who played Hal Blaine in the Love and Mercy film.
Yeah.
And Johnny,
Hey,
this
Johnny, how are you, buddy?
I'm
Rob
good. Nice-
Bonfiglio,
Hello.
musician
Good to meet you
extraordinaire.
virtually.
Yes, nice to meet you.
But you guys are both very close to
Good to
Darian
meet you.
and Debbie.
Yes.
So-
I do know. Yeah, we're mutual. I guess we have mutual connections, but I guess we've never met. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, Johnny, we're really grateful. I know you've got dad duties coming up here. So.
Yeah, I'm good for now. I'm good for.
Oh,
I'll
okay,
stick
okay.
around. I'll just hang out.
Okay, great. So just so that anybody who's watching this knows, I kind of sent out the email was bring holiday cheer. So I invited anyone who is a musician to come and maybe even perform a little something. It wasn't a caveat, it was just kind of an invitation. So I'm hopeful. I don't know. I can't imagine Johnny's going to jump behind the drums, but
Yeah, I should know. I should know Little Drummer Boy. I guess I should. I should play that.
You're
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
But so Johnny, what are you doing now that anybody who might be watching this could be aware of to kind of look out for you and what you got upcoming projects?
Well, nothing at the moment. About a year ago, I worked on a show called Outer Range on Amazon with Josh Brolin and Lily Taylor. It was really great. It was kind of a sci-fi ranching families with time travel thing. It was all over the place, but I think it was great. So I'm in the second season of that. I played a pastor in that, few episodes of that, and that was really fun. And I think they did a really great job on that show. So that's it for me.
Oh, well, we hope you're still looking for other
Yes.
You know, if there were like a event that we could make public, like what you did recently with all the gang,
Yeah.
and we could somehow figure out a way to make that public out in LA, I think that would be an awesome thing to come and get people to kind of go and see.
Oh yeah. Wouldn't that be great? Yeah.
It would be. It wouldn't just be strictly Beach Boys music, though. That I wouldn't want people to be disappointed thinking they're going to get a Beach Boys show. It would be a little bit of that, but I think it would be something quite a bit more. And just while I'm thinking of it, Johnny, you weren't involved, but when Andy Paley passed away, some of the gang got together: Jim LaSpeza, Darian, Debbie, Probin. And gosh, I might be forgetting somebody, but they did a great little. Oh, and Rob, and Rob,
Yeah.
and they did a great, beautiful tribute. They did Rio Grande, and what else did you guys do?
I think it was just Rio Grande. All the bits and pieces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they did. It was right not long after Andy died, and it was really and it can be found if you go out to I don't know if you go to maybe
Yeah. Where would that be? I don't know.
I probably maybe Jonathan Paley's, if you're friends with Jonathan Paley on Facebook, or Andy's widow, maybe on her timeline, or maybe on Darian's timeline, possibly.
Yeah, probably. He posted
Or
it.
Nelson. Well, no, Nelson wasn't a part. Nelson was a part of the Johnny Get Together.
Yeah.
Mhm.
See, all you LA musicians just kind of bleed together because you're all super talented, and I can't keep track. Can't keep track of you all. But I'm trying to think what else. And Teresa Cowles, who I know was not a part of the Andy Paley thing, though. She played Carol Kay in the Love and Mercy film, and she's awesome too. I would recommend anybody go and send her a Facebook friend request. She's always got something going on, and she's another multi-talented. I'm surprised she never ended up in Brian's band because she's so multi-talented, like everybody else is. I mean, it's just she's pretty impressive
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
musician.
Great.
But now, Johnny, I'm going to ask you: did you know Andy Paley?
I did not know.
Okay. So since we brought Andy up, Rob, do you have a personal Andy Paley experience that you'd like to share?
I didn't know Andy.
Oh,
I met him a
okay.
few times. I met him in passing a bunch of times over the years, but we never really had a relationship, so I didn't really get to know him, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah, I guess my situation's very similar.
I'm a huge fan of his. Yeah, I'm obviously a huge fan of his productions and his musicality and all that, but yeah, never got to meet him really.
He sent me
on a friendly basis.
Back in 2015 when I did the extensive interview with him about all the different things he'd done with Brian. He sent me everything, like even the unreleased stuff, CDs and CDs of stuff, including the SpongeBob SquarePants things that he had done. So he's such a very versatile guy, very versatile writer in terms of, when you listen to the SpongeBob SquarePants stuff and then you go back to the Brian stuff, you can hear a lot of how that playfulness in the songs, a lot of them didn't get released, but there's a big audience out there that would love to see that stuff released. And you can hear a lot of that playful production and rhythm building and melody that Andy put together that lived in those songs that he did with Brian that were just strictly Andy Paley-ish, touches, and you can definitely feel and hear him in that stuff. And anybody who's watching, go to YouTube and search Andy Paley and Brian Wilson, because I don't know what's up there, but you're on YouTube now, so just search around later, and I'm sure you'll be able to find all sorts of stuff. There's one song that I think is amazing called "God Did It," and there's that one, and another one called "Elbow 64," which is incredible because it's about playing basically yard football and elbowing one another in the stomach. And it's great. It's like it's like a kickback to early Beach Boy songs, and it's like something you would have heard on their All Summer Long album, but this was recorded in the early 2000s or late 1990s, early 2000s with Andy and Brian. And Brian's having a blast in the song. So it's very cool. So since this is a holiday special, Rob, is there any way that I could talk you into maybe getting your acoustic guitar that I'm imagining is somewhere nearby in that cacophony of machines?
I gotta find it.
Oh,
Look around.
Oh, right on cue.
Let's look around here. All right, I got one song. Okay, I got one Christmas song
Okay.
that I actually, because I've been touring with the Love and Spoonful lately. That's my day job at this point, and we decided to pull out a Beach Boys Christmas classic.
Great.
Would you like to hear it?
Yes, we would.
Here we go.
There's a tale about Christmas that you've already told. Looking at just up in red, and then the fence is rolling, working out that the snake neck and say, Singing, say, just getting big and see you. The best and just watching you. Still the same nigga. There's no one, and all I hear is how it frightens me. If I have a thousand years, he's got him, he's got his place, he's only eyes.
Christmas comes this time each year. We had trouble hearing you.
Oh no! What do you
Most of
mean?
that. Well, it wasn't. I
Was it
don't know. I
gating
don't
out?
know. Yeah, like
Oh,
it came through.
Ah,
But
shit.
we weren't gonna stop you.
Son of a gun.
We liked what we did here.
Oh
I
man.
like that you don't miss no one. I heard
That's all you
that.
got? Oh no.
one.
Son of a gun. Yeah. This thing with them, it's got like the built-in compression and then it gates everything.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Son of a
wasn't sure.
gun. I wonder if you can adjust that somehow. Oh well.
Okay.
So, well, maybe I'm playing it too loud. Maybe if I do it quietly.
This is the first time that I've done a live broadcast, so I don't even know if this is on Facebook Live right now. The intention was it's supposed to be, but we know we're on YouTube.
Oh,
So this
well, there you go.
it's a first. It's a first for both of us.
Wow.
So strum, see what it does. Just give me a strum. Mm-mm,
You hear nothing?
mm-mm.
Yeah, that's weird. It's gating it out.
Huh.
I wonder if there's an adjustment for that somehow.
I ran the same problem. Last year I did a video and Carly Munoz played, I want to say I Just Wasn't Made for These Times and sang it on his piano when I was doing a Zoom with a VIP member, and we couldn't, it was the same thing where we couldn't hear, we could, every once in a while we heard a little something, but we couldn't hear it. So then later he went to his bar and recorded it live and sent that to us.
Huh.
And that came through. So it may be a Zoom thing. It may be like a built-in mic on Zoom. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the mic in the computer or something is just crapping out.
Mm.
Sorry.
Well, that's okay. We, like I said, we enjoyed what we did here. And
There's no one. That was the worst part.
well, so I would just encourage anybody to go to the Love and Spoonful. Is it loveandspoonful.com? Is that the website? If anybody
Is it .band? It might be like .band or something.
Okay. But if you're on Facebook, look them up, and then
Yeah,
or just do a Google search or something. You can.
I'm also on the Instagrams and
Okay.
all that.
And you're doing that with Jeff Allen Ross. And for those who don't know who Jeff Allen Ross is, he traveled. He was part of the Al Jardine Trio for a while, and he also toured with. Is it Peter Asher? No, not is it? Who was that?
Yeah.
What? Okay, I didn't want to misremember that. I've already misremembered that you and Johnny know one another,
Yep.
so it's no telling what I'll come up with. Okay. Okay, Amanda was kind enough.
Yeah. We were actually getting.
I was just going to say Amanda was kind enough to put
Yeah.
the link in our chat over here so people can see where to go.
Great. Thank you.
And oh gosh, I'm trying to. Ron, is there anything? So Jim and Rob and Johnny, Ron is a. I'm just gonna. So Amanda's an award-winning writer, and Ron is a vice president in editing for NBC Sports. So he's got a very interesting background. I'm not gonna go into that again. I did it at the very beginning of the episode. But is there anything, Amanda or Ron, that you'd like to ask Jim or Rob or Johnny? And we'll look at the chat over here. Hey, chat folks, if you want to ask the guys anything, let us know and we'll ask that question. So please fire away.
I'll ask a question because I'm big on geography and sense of place as well. And we cover, so much history here. And David, you were talking about all these LA musicians. They all know each other. I'm getting them. And it's almost like, well, gee, as it is now, as it always was, right? Like, so if you go back to the period of time that's written about in the Winter ESQ of Brian Wilson Productions and the commingling and cross-pollination of different musicians and, Jim, from the period of 1961 to 1963 in LA. And I just, to me, one of the things about LA is, yes, it's changed a lot over the years. What city hasn't? But because of the geography that's so distinct, the hills are the hills, the canyons are the canyons. There's parts of LA that, unlike other modern cities in this country, it's very easy when I visit there, and I'm on the East Coast, but when I visit LA, it's like, there's parts of it where it's like, wow, it doesn't take much to picture yourself back in those formative years. So I guess that's my wind up to a question of, as you're around LA, are there certain places that would just seeing and being in one of the places around LA takes you back to a moment in time that you either lived or know about having researched as part of Beach Boys history?
I would ask Rob. Yeah, that's, I guess, to Rob and Johnny.
That's a good question. I don't really cruise around LA much. I go where I gotta go when I gotta go. But when I find myself on the West Side, I might take a left turn and go through Bel Air and kind of look for the old Bellagio house. And then I think about that song "Busy Doing Nothing" and how it's like the directions to the house. It just gives me I don't know, it gives me a feeling of being a part of that history, because I'm married to Carney, so obviously I'm connected to the family in a way that others aren't, and I just kind of get I don't know, it's a weird feeling. It's like a longing. I can't really explain it, but and also here's another thing. Here's another interesting tidbit. I hike a lot, and we live in Northridge. And so don't take this the wrong way, but I hike regularly at Spahn Ranch. So there's a little connection there. But I'll tell you what, I'm real sensitive to like vibrations and whatever, spirituality, whatever it is. And I walk through those trails and I get nothing but a good vibe. I don't get any negativity. So whatever was there, I don't believe is there anymore. And it's just beautiful in its nature. And I kind of just, it's my Zen spot.
Well, that's cool.
A weird factoid.
Oh, isn't
that bizarre?
Wow.
Yeah,
awesome.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Spahn Ranch, the old Spahn Ranch. It's just, it's all gone now, but
yeah,
you know what happened there.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to know that I wanted to have, if anybody would have brought that up in any other conversation or any other perspective, I guess I would have been thinking about those circumstances
and the darkness and all the weird stuff that went on there. But the trails that I go are kind of adjacent to where the old ranch was, and I see it as I walk by. But yeah, I get no bad vibes anymore. Just nothing. I don't feel bad there.
Well, that's great to hear. That's great to hear. Johnny, how about you?
I always felt it like going. Like up in Laurel Canyon, just because of all the history of Laurel Canyon, I always felt like, especially around February when the night blooming jasmine is sort of permeating the air, it just sort of has this magical feel. And I was lucky when I first moved out here, a friend of mine was friends with Henry Diltz, the photographer that took a lot of rock and roll stuff. And I went to a little dinner at a house in Laurel Canyon, and Henry was there, and he did like a slideshow presentation, and kind of would like talk about, oh, that's when we did this, and and so that just had like it connected me to that time in a way that was really special. And then also I drove by Blue Jay Way, which is the George Harrison song on the Beatles. So I thought that was cool to be on the Blue Jay Way street at one time.
Well, it only goes to show.
Yeah. I think he was, the Bird Streets. Yeah. So that was special.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I mean, I've been out there a couple times, to LA, but I just, like, it's just like you're going for a purpose to a certain destination. You're not really sightseeing per se. You're going around, and so it's just, it's interesting. I would like to go out there just as not as a tourist person, but to go out and go to kind of iconic places, and hope you're not invading on anybody's home privacy. Because I would love to go up to Laurel Canyon and go to the Mama Cass's old house and stuff like that. But hope to have hope I'm not intruding by walking by walking up or something. But there's just so much history. And Henry Diltz, my gosh, he was an integral part of that whole scene.
Yeah,
so to have him still with us and have his own art gallery the way that he does, it's just fantastic.
Right.
So
I don't keep up with him. I wish I did. But he's just a lovely guy. Just just as you would hope. He's just easy to talk to, and excited. Just happy to talk about music or photography or whatever. He's just great. Yeah, really great guy.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Well, Jim, with your background, when you were working on your book, and if you talked about this before, I don't recall. Did you go out to California and kind of during your research? Did you go out there and look into some of these historic spots?
Well, not during the research, actually. I'm an East Coast guy. I was born in New York City. So first time I saw the Beach Boys was Carnegie Hall in 1972. They opened up with Wouldn't It Be Nice? And it was just unbelievable, the sound in Carnegie Hall with all the guys there. Brian wasn't with them at that time, of course, but it was just a phenomenal show. But anyway, when I am in LA, where I go is Hawthorne. And I go down the main street, years ago before the monument was built. I remember being out there and trying desperately to find the the childhood home, and not knowing that, the freeway had come through. And unfortunately, the city fathers did not have the foresight to preserve the home or move it or, do something like that to, create a museum or something. And I was just going around in circles. I could not find it. And then I talked to Wayne Johnson at Rockaway Records, and he said, oh, yeah, that house is long gone. But, this is where it used to be. But I've been back to the monument, and I just feel a special kind of vibe when I'm in that area, because this is where they were born, or this is where they grew up. This is where they began singing in that one little bedroom. And Brian was, beginning to dole out their vocal harmony parts, and it's kind of where the innocence was first born before any of the problems set in. And practicing in the garage that was converted to a music room. So that holds a special kind of feeling for me. It's just like, where it really began. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was fortunate in that I was able to be there the day that they unveiled the monument. Henry Diltz was there, in fact. He was taking photos, and I think he sat up real close to next to Brian and Melinda, if I'm recalling correctly. And it was just I sat with Probin, and that was great because I got to watch him get ready to go up on stage, and they performed. Just that whole day was real. I remember it being very hot, and very what's the right word? Communal. There was a really true sense of it didn't matter if you knew the person you were sitting next to or not. It was just like we were there all kind of collectively to celebrate this, Jim, exactly what you're just talking about. This spot where the house used to be, where these three brothers grew up. and where this music was created and emanated out. And I just still I'm kind of, my heart's welling up a little bit just talking about it, because for Brian to be there in front row and sitting there, I cannot, to this day, I cannot imagine what was going through his mind to be looking at a brick structure where his home used to be, right? And then the emotions and memories that are attached to that, So I always try to be appreciative of what somebody else might be experiencing, especially during meaningful moments. It's just, and speaking of that, at the Chinese, Ron and I have talked about this. There's a great photo that Carney took of her dad sitting watching the screen at the Chinese theater of the Beach Boys documentary, of the silhouette of his head looking upon his 1964 self. And it's the same type of thing. This incredible musical innovator of the 20th century must be thinking and experiencing, between the memories and the emotional qualities that go with that. I can only imagine. But I thought Carney just captured that moment so eloquently and beautifully in that image. It's such a beautiful contrast.
There's that great photo of the guys in the home looking at the memorabilia wall. So there's a fair number of surviving photos of the inside of the house, and I've been in touch with this architect who's trying to reconstruct the inside of the Wilson home, based on floor plans and
Wow.
city documents and things like that. Yeah, and he's trying to reconstruct it based on the photos and the typical prevailing floor plans of the day.
Yeah.
And the tract homes in that area. But there's that great photo of them looking at their memorabilia, sheet music and records and picture sleeves and things like that. And I've actually recreated that. I'm just love that early history of the Beach Boys. And it's just them again in their such innocent years when their career was taken off. It's probably sometime in late '63. I think Little Saint Nick is already out. And they're just taken off, and they had a very, very short apprenticeship, compared to the Beatles. The Beach Boys hit with surfing. They're kind of dormant for a couple of months, between March and May. They signed with Capitol Records, June 4th, the Surfing Safari 409, and then Capitol has pounded them for an album, and they're scrambling. Mike and Brian write the Shift. They've already got Surfing and Surfing Safari. Brian sits down with Gary Usher and writes maybe 6 or 7 songs. And they get the Surfing Safari album out really, really fast. And some people feel it doesn't hold up to Meet the Beatles, but the Beatles had this long apprenticeship by the time they actually started recording for Capitol, 5 years at least. 30 songs,
Yeah.
30 songs at least in the can. So the Beach Boys had a very meteoric rise there, but they really had to catch up. But of course, they had the secret weapon of Brian Wilson. So
Yeah. Are you Jim? Are you referring to the photo where it's Brian standing with Carl and Mike, where they're
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I know that photo. Yeah.
They're sort of bookending the memorabilia wall, and and everything is
Okay.
pinned up there. It's everything that has come out so far on Capitol, and obviously they're very proud of it. But it's just a cool photo of them enjoying their own success and the records.
Funny, I don't think I ever put together, and as much as investigating and looking into things I've done for 30 plus years, I don't know if I've ever put together that was inside that house.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Somewhere
No.
between, I think, probably, because I think, Al Jardine has always said when you first came in the house, you made a sharp left and
Mhm.
then a step or two down into the converted music room that the old,
Yeah.
that Murray had, the garage originally, then Murray converted it to the music room sometime in the 50s. So I think that where that memorabilia wall is probably somewhere between the music room and then, the main house, perhaps the kitchen or, the dining room or whatever. But
I would think if you look in the new issue, the Dave Nolan interview for the survivors, he talks about how he and Bob Norberg were low on cash, and Brian told him that, well, my dad needs the living room painted.
Yeah.
I would be willing to bet it's in the living room because they had to cover up. So Rob and Johnny, if you've not, well, I don't know if Johnny, if you got the issue, but Rob, if you haven't had time to read it yet, it's a great story
Haven't yet.
because, so I'll share it real quick. It's great because, so this was in 63 because this is at the time of the writing of Be True to Your School.
Yeah.
So Bob Norberg and Dave Nolan go over with Brian to Murray's house. And this is Brian's living with Bob at this point in the Crenshaw Boulevard apartment. And they go over and they're low on cash, so they need odd jobs to get money. So they go over and Murray needs the living room painted. So they're in the process of covering up the room and getting the room ready, and they're starting to cover up the piano and get it all ready. And Brian and Murray get into this knockdown, drag out, screaming match at one another. Brian runs out, slams the door, and he disappears. Well, Bob and Dave continue with what they're doing, and they're getting the room ready. And Brian comes bolted, like 20 minutes later, Brian comes flying through the front door. He grabs the tarp off the piano, he throws it on the ground, and he sits down and he starts playing. He goes, "When some loud braggart tries to put you down." And he says, "Guys, come here, I want you to check this out." So I just love that little moment of that I don't know if Brian had the idea when he left the house, but he sure had it 20 minutes later. And I love that. And you almost think, loud braggart, is he talking about his dad? Just in that moment because of the fact that they had just had a fight 20 minutes earlier. So I like that little insight into Brian's process in that moment and taking something where, taking that energy from that circumstance and using it to channel music, I just thought was really cool.
That's awesome.
That kind of leads into a question I had for Jim, actually. I'm wondering in that period of 61 to 63, what were some of the challenges that the band faced that they overcame that helped them become the Beach Boys? Like, what are some of the difficult things that they faced and were able to get through?
Well, as far as musicianship goes, Brian was a fairly good keyboard player already and piano. Carl and David, even after Al left in February of 62, Carl and David had been playing guitar since Christmas of 1958. So Carl and David had their rhythm section down pretty good, actually. They've been playing for a good 3 years. They were taking lessons from John Moss, who goes on to be one of the Walker brothers. And so they were already pretty accomplished for their age. I mean, they're like 14, 15 years old, but they were pretty good guitarists. But I think to learn to play live was a real challenge. If you play any kind of musical instrument, sitting down and playing guitar is one thing. Standing up is a whole nother thing. Playing and singing at the same time is another thing. So I think their live act, there's a lot of anecdotal stories of the scant reviews that appeared from the 63 days, 62, 63 days, their live appearances, where they were not necessarily that good. There were some things missing. Of course, the PA systems back then that you had to plug into at these venues, the microphones, the sound was not necessarily really, not a lot of attention went into the sound. And then by spring of 63, Brian drops out from the touring group. Then that gives the entryway for Al Jardine to come back, actually. Marx quits in a fit of anger, whatever, big regret there. And it paves the way for Al to come back. And Brian stays home, which is where he should have been the whole time because, he can write and produce and arrange and, have the songs ready for the guys when they come back off the road. But I think that was the biggest challenge is, getting really proficient on their instruments. Of course, Mike didn't play anything. He plays a rudimentary sax, shutdown, and, a few other things perhaps. Dennis, really had to learn the drums, and he came into his own as a great rock and roll drummer, later on, but he had to learn that fast. And they had to perform. They had to go out pretty quickly and do shows. Even before they signed with Capitol, they're doing shows. But they had to learn to be, professional musicians and be able to play and perform standing up and singing at the same time. So I think that was probably the biggest challenge. As it would be for anyone, as it would be for anyone.
That and getting past the fact that their father was handing out buttons at the shows that say, "I know Brian's dad."
Right.
There's There was
Yeah,
that.
another cool story about the childhood home is when I found and interviewed Judy Bowles. Now, Judy Bowles was Brian's fiance. They dated for like 2 years and 3 months. And she knew Brian in 1960. She met him in the summer of 1960 when he was coaching her brother's Little League team. And then they broke up in October of 63. So she really brackets those early parts of the Beach Boys story, way before Surfing comes out, way before the band is formed. And right at the end of 63, when they're really taking off, internationally, they're about to go to Australia, New Zealand, and just take off. And she was in the home. She was in the childhood home that weekend in November when they were rehearsing Surfing. When Murray and Audrey go to Mexico City, they leave Brian with the $80 of food money. That money is spent pretty quickly. Virginia Jardine, Al's mom, loans them $300 to rent the instruments at Hogan's House of Music. And they do this big rehearsal session in the house and in the music room. And they hold a party. They invite every friend they know, every kid from the neighborhood comes over. And, maybe they knew 2 or 3 songs. They probably just kept doing Surfing over and over again. But Judy remembers being there and in the house. And of course, she was in the house a lot because they dated that whole period of time. She really knew him well. He buys her an engagement ring, and the relationship obviously does not last. But it was kind of cool when I was talking to Judy that she had those memories of being there when it all began. The Becoming the Beach Boys, the heightened Dorinda Morgan sessions that Brad Rosenberg released on Omnivore. It's not Pet Sounds and it's not Smile, but it is where it all began. It's the early stuff. Yeah, it's the early stuff. So I have the honor of writing the liner notes for that. Based on the book. But anyway, it was just cool to know that that's where these 3 brothers, their cousin, a high school friend, start forming the Beach Boys, and the roots of it all happens there in that house. So I was always so mad at the officials at Hawthorne, the government or the mayor or whoever was responsible, why that house was not preserved. But that's
Well, it's not just LA, or California. It's the entire United States just hasn't quite wrapped their mind around the value of historic
Mhm.
sites.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a little. I mean, when you look at the rest of the world, how certain things are kept and taken care of and kept up and honored and noted as historic sites that we. I mean, gosh, you just go to LA and Hollywood area. I mean, the Brown Derby should have never been taken down, or the entire. Gosh, what's the thing that Quentin Tarantino remade
Cinerama?
a few years ago?
Cinerama.
Yeah, but Quentin Tarantino did it a few years ago for the film with Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, where he did the whole street again. Where
Yeah.
What was that? What was the
Was it the Palladium?
I can't. God, without it being in front of me, I can't recall. But it was like he redid the entire street to bring it back to the era appropriate 70s, I believe, and all that stuff's gone. And like even Pop, the pier amusement park should never Pacific that should never have been destroyed. I don't understand. And then there's I follow Allison Martino. If anyone does not know that name, you should definitely follow her on Facebook. She's like all about. Her dad was Al Martino. He was in the Godfather movies. I mean, Google him. You'll get into that. He was an incredible singer of his time. But Allison Martino also does Vintage Los Angeles, and you can just follow that profile and get into all this stuff that's not there anymore, and it's significant markers in Los Angeles history. They put it. Didn't they just a couple years ago? They built this brand new looking modern building, but they took down other stuff to do it. And the new building is ugly. Let alone they had to destroy all these wonderful sites to do it. Yeah, I know Brown Derby was a restaurant, but still. And Dan Tana's, didn't they also destroy Dan Tana's?
No, I think that's still around.
Okay, good. And I know Musso and Frank's is still there.
Yeah,
But it's like there's not many left. They've really It's just money, money. I wish the people with the money really appreciated deep history so that the stuff could remain preserved. But I don't really know, having said that out loud, I don't really know how you could set up Brian's old house as a tourist attraction. Because it's in the middle of a neighborhood. Had they not put a highway through there, it would be still kind of hard. It's like going up to Laurel Canyon and visiting Cass's old house, right? I mean, you're gonna intrude on somebody's property. So I don't know how you really bust people through to do that. Now I know they do that in Liverpool. I know they do that with McCartney's old home and Ringo's old home and John's old home, but I guess it's just treated different and people expect it. But
they could have put it up for sale. I would have bought it. I would have put it in my backyard.
What, the Wilson home?
Yeah, I'm teasing, but that's how obsessive I am about the early days.
I would have, if I had the money, I would have bought the music room.
Yeah,
I would have preserved just the music room with the piano in it, so that I could understand that space, because it was a garage. It was a converted garage, just to understand that space.
Well, for years it housed the surfboard, the iconic surfboard on the early album covers, and then Dennis gives it to Louis across the street.
Louis Marotta,
yeah, Louis, and Louis has it in the rafters in his garage for years, decades, and then he gives it to a friend of his, actually, who then later sold it through Rockaway Records, actually. It was,
and then they sold it to, I should know his name, because Rick, because it's a brother of Perry Cox, Rick Cox.
Perry Cox's brother, Perry Cox.
Yeah, Perry Cox, because they're the ones who brought it to the documentary.
Brought it to the documentary, right? Yeah.
So the surfboard could sit there for 30 seconds in the background.
Yeah.
It's like the moment we all really want. No. The rest of the documentary is okay. Can we see 10 minutes of the guys sitting together at Paradise Cove with the surfboard behind them? You don't even need the surfboard. Can we just see the guys sitting together for 10 minutes shooting the shit? Can we that's all we want. Can we have that? And of course, Disney said no. Here's 30 seconds. But gosh. Yeah. Well, Rob and Johnny, I want to thank you both for hopping in and joining us for this.
My pleasure.
You're surrounded by Beach Boy geeks, so we're doing just that. We're geeking out a little bit.
It's all right.
But Johnny, I'll make it a point to send you the latest issue of ESQ, because I want you to have the Brian Wilson production issue that I just did, and I'll get it to you.
I would love that. Yeah. Tell me how to email. Let me know how to sign up for it or something, or subscribe, and I will. Yeah, for sure. I'm sorry. I thought I should have done that a long time ago.
Yeah, shame on you. That's quite all right. Let me just make a note of that. But yeah, so it's Rob. I think we were talking about this right before you came on. We just how fascinating it was for me in doing the Brian Wilson production issue. And getting an understanding that Brian at that point in his career, because I think for me anyway, I just always thought, okay, once they became the Beach Boys, once they were signed to the Capitol deal, that's just all they thought about. We're the Beach Boys now. This is what, we got to churn out hits. We got to churn out. And that wasn't the case for Brian in late 62 going into 63, 64. Even when they were becoming a really like Shutdown Volume 2 when that came out, that's a significant album for them. With Don't Worry Baby, Warmth of the Sun, very significant album for them. And yet Brian was still in a place of exploring and understanding who he was and his place in the music industry, because he was still very interested in being a producer, just a producer, not a Beach Boys producer, but a producer. And that to me is a really fascinating aspect of Brian's background and his entire musical journey. To understand, because now I think anybody in their right mind, if you say 12 albums in 4 years, you're thinking that's ludicrous, because it's insane. Yeah. Just that 2 albums were released 3 weeks apart, 3 weeks apart from each other. Yeah. 3 weeks. Very well. The Beatles didn't even do that. Nobody's done that. So, and then the quality of what was coming out, and I think it's one of the Well, it's going to appear in the spring issue, my interview with Marilyn and Ginger, because they were so close. You know, Marilyn was with Brian by this point. They're two of the Honeys, for anyone who doesn't know. And I asked them both, with all the work that Brian was doing for the Beach Boys, but also these kind of peripheral acts, Jan and Dean, Sharon Marie, Bob and Vic, the Survivors, you know, working with Gary Usher on outside tracks for different projects. How did he, you know, and because I don't know, did he have the nervous breakdown on the plane because of all this work? Or they don't attribute those two things as connectors. It's like they just look at what Brian was just on fire.
He was on fire, but he also had, in addition to his role as a band leader and whatnot, he felt a strong competition with Phil Spector. So obviously he wanted to do that as well, which he did quite well. And he found his muse with the Honeys and others, and it was the perfect timing. You know,
it was, and it's. I love. I hope that Johnny has seen this documentary. Rob, I imagine you have. The Endless Harmony documentary from 1998 that Alan Boyd and Delilah Pictures put together.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was that one where Terry Melcher says, where he's talking about both Phil Spector and Brian, and he said Spector's sound was it was big, but it was angry, and Brian's sound was big, but it was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And what Brian created was an industry, like what Brian took what he got from Spector and he made it better. Like he took that experience and he made it. And you can hear that on Don't Worry Baby. Just like you hear Be My Baby, which came first, and then you hear Don't Worry Baby, and it's just exactly what Terry Melcher said. It's like Be My Baby is a great recording, and Brian would tell you, but it's beautiful, but it does the instrumentation and the push behind it are kind of more adamant, if you will. They're kind of more forceful. Where Brian took that beat, utilized it in Don't Worry Baby, and he kind of fools us initially because it's so beautiful sounding, and we think it's a car song. But oh no, it's not. All right, it's a love song.
And it's Phil Spector plus five-part harmonies.
Huh.
So there you go.
Yeah, and it's just I liken it to like listening to a flower bloom.
Yeah,
it's just great. It's just every time I put it on, it makes everything better whenever I hear it. It's like the movie Never Been Kissed with Drew Barrymore. When that film comes to an end and she's running down the end, Don't Worry Baby comes on. It's just like, oh, the film just got better.
Yeah. It's like the end of American Graffiti and All Summer Long.
Yes, exactly the same. Just the film good film just got better.
There's that great
It got melancholy.
Yeah.
There's that great story that Billy Joel tells, when they did the tribute to Brian at Radio City, and Billy Joel was one of the guests, and he does Don't Worry Baby. And he talks about his daughter, Alexa, seeing Never Been Kissed and how Don't Worry Baby closes the movie, and she just loved the song. And, Billy Joel does this over dramatization. I just love the Beach Boys. And Billy tells her, well, I opened for them in the 70s before I was big, I used to open for the Beach Boys. So then he goes in to do this really, really great version of Don't Worry Baby. Actually, you check it out on YouTube or whatever, you may have seen it already, but just a terrific version of Don't Worry Baby, a little more raw and, Billy Joel style and more gutsy, New York kind of guttural kind of thing, not the sweet studio version that Brian did, but another version, Don't Worry Baby, that I really love is from the live album, the In Concert album, the 1973, 74, whatever it was, 73 In Concert that Jardine does. Because I remember my brother and I, we were Beach Boy fans from Good Vibrations on, and we got the In Concert album, and before we even played it, we looked at the track list, and it was like, Don't Worry Baby. They're going to tackle Don't Worry Baby. They're going to try to sing Don't Worry Baby live without Brian there in the band. And it was really gutsy and ballsy, and they do, and it's it's in a different key, I suspect, or whatever. But Jardine gives it his whole heart, And it's kind of like an everyman vocal. It's just like it almost convinces you that you yourself could sing "Don't Worry, Baby." But it's just a great, great version of it. And and the harmonies in the background, and they're doing it live without any studio tricks or re overdubbing or whatever. So as much as I love the studio version of it, I love the live version that Al Jardine sings in concert. It's just terrific,
Well,
terrific.
Jim, I think the key words I just heard you say was whole heart.
Yeah.
I think that's really the element of that. That's something I can speak to when I'm singing in the choir. It's one thing to sing it when if you're singing something along and in the car or whatever, you can dial into, anybody who's done that can dial into that. But when we're in the church choir, particularly a couple of times when we've done Mozart, and we're doing everything in Latin. So you have to be in the moment, you have to be paying attention, you have to be really present. So it's very seldom that you kind of allow yourself out of your focus. But when you're really locked in, which is rare for me because I'm not professional by any stretch of the imagination, but every once in a while, and I remember these moments significantly, when you're in the pocket with everybody else and the sound washes over you, that you're not only doing what you're supposed to be doing, because you get the stink eye from the choir director if you don't, but just when you're in that moment, that brief, even if it's brief, even if it's all of 1 to 2 seconds, it's so significant and it just stays with you forever because it's part of it, I suppose, is knowing that you're a part of it. But the bigger thing that's so important, even if you go to a concert to see somebody and you can experience it, it's just being a part of something. Being a part of something that's bringing joy to people, right? I mean, it's just that whole heart, which you were speaking about. You heard Al singing it with his whole heart, and that's what stood out to me.
When you're a musician and you're in a band or you're playing a song and you get into that place, that's called being in the zone.
Yeah.
That's what you strive for at all times, being in the zone. It doesn't always happen. When it does, you remember it.
Yeah. David, you said before that you thought of it as a car song, but then but you then learned that it was a love song. Yeah. I always thought of it, and correct me if I'm wrong here, maybe I misheard it, but because I always saw "Don't Worry, Baby" as a love song until she told me, "Baby, if you race today, just take along my love with you." And then I was like, "If you race today, where's that come from?"
Well, I think
I always saw it as a sweet love.
I got you. Yeah, well, I think it's because it was on Shutdown Volume 2, so it was like the idea of the recordings work. So I think, but it's just fascinating to me that the song, over time, even if you hear that lyric and you've never heard the song before and you have that reaction of going, why is he suddenly singing about a car? Mm-hmm. It's still this, you can go back to it and it doesn't matter that he's saying anything about a car.
Right.
Because it's just this universal, it's strange that way. It's a very unique song in that respect because it is a love song. It's not a love song about the car like Ballad of Old Betsy is. It's a true love song about a guy and a girl and their relationship. And for a brief moment, she's concerned about his race. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it's about their relationship as a whole. Mm-hmm. And he just kind of, it's almost as though I could see like maybe Mike contributed that little line. Let's put, Brian, we got to make sure that we put this is a car album. We got to make sure that we put a little car lyric in there. I don't know, but it seems like that might have been how that developed. It's hard to say, but it's just, I think as much as wouldn't it be nice and all the other greats, Good Vibrations, you name it, get the praise they do. I think Don't Worry, Baby is at the tier of that conversation any day of the week.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. In fact, if I had to be on a desert island with one Beach Boys song, it would be "Don't Worry, Baby." It would be
Johnny.
Come to Me would "Be My Baby" is to Brian. That would just be playing it over and over again.
Johnny,
the clue though that it's a car song, and I think we all missed this. I know I'm guilty of missing it back then. It's written, the lyrics of Roger Christian, and he was a gearhead. He was a car guy.
Very much so.
He had the 32 Deuce Coupe. And his notebook that, him and Brian would get together and they'd go out when, after midnight when he got off of KFWB and they'd sit and have, ice cream sundaes and
Probably went to Norm's.
goes with the notebook. And it's like, so you read the lyrics to Don't Worry Baby and Shut Down, and he's a car guy. He's a car guy. So
Yeah.
of course it's a car song.
Johnny, I thought you were going to say something, and we talked over you.
Oh no, I was just echoing, about playing music, and I think that's why I started wanting to play drums in the first place. Is just I would listen to songs and love being in that space. I just wanted to like get inside of the song, and so playing drums was my way of like surrounding myself with the music and then being able to like participate with it as well. And so that's always just a thrill. Same thing when you're playing and the song seems to play itself. That's the magic moment for me, that zone moment for me, when it feels like, oh man, it's like there's no other way this could go. It's going, I can't even mess up because it's going so well. That's the best. Yeah.
Mm. Now, when you were doing Love and Mercy, I'm curious because you said they filmed you live when you were just doing the takes.
Yeah.
Was there a point, maybe between takes, or where they filmed you guys actually doing a song together, where it was like a full song or anything like that?
I don't know if we did a full song, but everything that they used in the movie when you're in the studio, that is us playing. That's everybody. That's the recording of everyone in the room. I don't think they did any kind of dubbing or anything like that. I know that they mixed. Like coming out of we're learning Good Vibrations, and then I think they mix it to the final, the Beach Boys version. It goes into that, but when we're in the studio, that is definitely us all playing there. Yeah, I was just gonna
say I was particularly impressed with Paul because he just.
Oh yeah.
Because Darren told me about how he worked with Paul to get him to, because Paul really wanted to do the singing himself.
Yeah.
And how great he did. I mean, that was impressive.
And what's that song? Is it Surf's Up? That's a tough one. He did that. Is that I think it was Surf's Up or
Caroline No, or
he does something. It's just by himself, I think, in the movie. I think. So is it Surf's Up? Yeah, it was really great. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been following him closer. I've seen him do a number of movies. And it's interesting, he even publicly he was doing an interview for the movie The Batman where he plays the Riddler. And he said playing Brian helped him prepare
for his
role as the Riddler. Yeah. I'm curious to hear him say that. But yeah, he's a very versatile guy. He's a very versatile actor. But if I could pick up Johnny, if I could, I would pick up I can't, but I would walk my computer over. I have the full-size movie poster from Love and Mercy framed on the wall, signed by Brian, Bill, Paul, and Elizabeth.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful poster. I have that in my living room. I have that same poster.
Great soundtrack and great poster.
Yeah, really great.
I love the art, how the tear is coming out of the out of the eye. It's just so subtle and so stark.
So great. Yeah, that artist is great. Kai Aarons, I think is his name. I keep up with his stuff. He does some really great artwork stuff. Yeah.
Well, gosh, this has gone on much longer than I would have hoped. We're so close to the holidays. I feel guilty for keeping everybody on here as long as I have.
Oh.
I'm really grateful. Look at this!
Hey,
I didn't have a.
Oh man.
Santa's here.
Oh man,
I got this to show. I'm kind of in a spirited mood. Well, I'm in a spirited mood. I just don't have spirited clothing on.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot I took my necklace off.
Oh, you did.
There you go.
Perfect.
Oh man,
that's perfect. But Rob, thank you.
It's great to be here. Sorry you couldn't hear me.
Yeah, I'll see you in January.
Yes, absolutely. North Carolina.
Yep. All right. Thank you. And
we'll see you guys.
Thank you.
Johnny,
Thank you guys.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you
you
all
all
very much. This was
my
wonderful.
pleasure.
Happy
Yeah.
holidays.
Happy
You too.
holidays.
And,
Yeah. Bye bye.